Monster Synthesis Master. Chapter 181. Even an old dog has a few teeth. Sun Shu was accompanying him in the first hospital of Shadu. The high-class ICU rooms had their own living room for resting and receiving guests. Through the transparent soundproof glass, one could see his unconscious foster father lying on the bed. The underground vault had been completely robbed, and there was nothing valuable left in White Crane Hall. It was enough to leave a few trusted disciples to guard it. Sun Shu had not closed his eyes since early in the morning. With his hands in front of his chest, he sat on the sofa and looked at his foster father, who had no signs of waking up. An ominous feeling shrouded his heart. I wonder how 11 and the others are doing, Ying Luo. After bringing his foster father He Tong Yan to the hall, the tycoons of White Crane Hall gathered in the living room. Sun Shu gradually recovered from his shock. Based on the traces and evidence found by his subordinates, he was very likely to be sure that Link was the mastermind. That's why they came to question him. For this operation, Sun Shu had also made 2 preparations. Just as Sun Shu was in a daze, the phone on the table suddenly rang. Second Guardian, all the listening devices in Link's gang have failed. We can't connect to a single one. Sun Shu's heart skipped a beat when he heard this. He suddenly had a bad feeling. All right, I got it. There's only one reason for the bug's failure, and that's because it was discovered, Sun Shu mumbled to himself, but his expression was one of disbelief. When old Zhu and his men left, they had brought along more than a dozen listening devices, which were installed in various hidden corners under the excuse of searching. This time, the ones who had gone to search and install were the veterans of the White Crane Hall. Logically speaking, even if they had been discovered, only a small number of bugs would have been found. However, all the bugs had lost their effectiveness. There was only one possibility: Link had discovered and destroyed all the bugs. Just as Sun Shu was deep in thought, the door to the living room was suddenly pushed open. Ninth Guardian's eyes were filled with panic. He ignored the hospital's ban on loud noises and shouted, "Second brother, it's not good. 11's arms have been cut off. He's lost too much blood and is being sent to the emergency room." Sun Shu suddenly stood up, his head buzzing. He had never thought that his youngest adopted brother would lose both his arms because of his plan. "Where is it? Take me there." When Sun Shu arrived at the emergency room and saw 11 on the operating table, who had lost 2 forearms and had gone into shock from excessive blood loss, he felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. Although 11 was usually hot-tempered and impulsive, he respected the 10 of them as his brothers and did his best to follow their orders. He was even more attentive to the tasks assigned to him by his foster father. But now, all kinds of monitoring devices were inserted into his body, and the doctors were trying to stop the bleeding and injecting all kinds of drugs into 11th Guardian's body. A moment later, a doctor in a white coat quickly walked over and took off his mask. "The situation is not very good right now because the patient's severed forearm contained an excessive amount of poison. This poison has a strong numbing effect on blood vessels and nerves, causing the nerves and blood vessels in the arm to atrophy. We tried our best. Sorry to trouble you, doctor." Sun Shu's face was pale as he turned and walked out of the emergency room. He knew that 11 was finished. To a pugilist, losing both arms was equivalent to becoming a cripple. "I want to know all the details of today's operation." Sun Shu's eyes were filled with killing intent. After old 9 finished his explanation, Sun Shu clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. He then punched the wall. The wall rumbled, and countless tiny cracks appeared in the center of the fist, radiating from the center. The nurse in the corridor trembled in fear, but when she saw Sun Shu, who was dressed like a gang member, she did not dare to say anything. "I'll make Link pay." Sun Shu's brain worked quickly, and after a moment, he said, "You said that Link said he wanted to participate in the rare animal beauty contest in the basement." Ninth brother was stunned for a moment before nodding his head. "Yes, he said that he's going to participate in the rare animal beauty contest, and even the participating animals are gifts from Commander Mun's son, Benjamin. Good, this information is enough. The underground vault is definitely Link's doing. Other than him, there's no one else. Furthermore, I've already analyzed everything in the morning. Everything is coincidental. It's as if the team-building event was specially created to create an alibi. He wants to participate in the rare animal selection now. We'll not let him do as he wishes. Even though my foster father has fallen, White Crane Hall still exists. I'm going to let Link know that even an old dog has teeth. Sun Chu began to sort out his thoughts and rack his brains to think of connections and ways to stop Link. The next morning, Link arrived at the scheduled time. The third brother, Mr. Kong, wind-chasing wolf, and a large number of hatchet men were left in the sect to guard against the attack of White Crane Hall again. Link brought Fu, Fred, and the bandits to the art gallery in the uptown. The art gallery had been the main venue for the beauty contest of rare animals for 5 years. Link had just alighted from the small van when he saw a person running towards him from a distance. "Brother Lin, we meet again. I watched the entire interview you had on the Animal Arena program team of the Shudu TV station the day before yesterday. Bring me along the next time you go to the Animal Arena. I want to earn some pocket money too." Link sized Benjamin up, his eyes full of doubt. "You're also short on money." Benjamin scratched his head. "Yes, I do. I want to earn money with my own hands, so that I can have a memorable dream wedding with Jenny. But I asked about the price, and it's sky high." Link waved his hand, signaling for Afu to take charge of the beauty contest. Third brother had already explained the main points and process to Afu before he came. Link's visit this time was purely to meet Benjamin. As for the rare animal beauty pageant, it was all arranged by Afu. This was also Link's plan to train his left and right hands so that Afu could take charge of a field. Link turned to Benjamin and continued, "With your status, as long as you're willing to stand up, there will definitely be a lot of people willing to cooperate with you. You can make money even if you lie down." Benjamin shook his head frantically, his face showing a depressed expression. "No, those people are all coveting my identity and my father's power. If I were to use my father's Meng Yin, then I might as well ask my family for money." "Then why did you ask me to take you to the Animal Arena to make money?" "That's because Brother Lin is sincere in being my friend and not someone who values my status." Link chuckled at her words. As expected of the title Silly Sweet Number 1. "Then let me tell you seriously, I'm also after your identity and background, okay?" Benjamin looked confident and shook his head madly. "No, that's not possible. At the entrance of the city library, Brother Lin clearly didn't know who I was. You were purely doing a good deed." "Okay," said Link after a moment of silence, "I can help you make money, but please don't say that I'm just doing it for a good cause." "Ha!" Benjamin's face was filled with confusion. "That's because the words Good Samaritan are not a compliment to a gang leader in the slums." Li Zijun smiled as she walked over from a distance. Just as Link was about to chat with Li Ziki, Fu ran over hurriedly and said, Boss, bad news. We've been disqualified." Chapter 182, Tit for Tat, Counter Every Move. At the first hospital of Sha City. In the living room of the ICU ward. "Second brother, it's done. The Link gang has been disqualified from the rare animal beauty pageant." Ninth Guardian hurriedly ran in and said. Sun Chu sat on the sofa and made tea. He poured a cup of tea and pushed it in front of old Ju. "Well done. It seems that our White Crane Hall has been working for the uptown snowballs for many years, and we have accumulated some connections." Old Ju was not in the mood to taste tea at all, so he picked up the cup and drank it in one gulp. Because she drank too quickly, a lot of it leaked from the corner of her mouth, and she stretched out her arm to wipe it off roughly. "Second brother, there's something I don't know if I should ask. Is it really okay to do this?" The pets for the competition were given to Link by Benjamin. If we stop Link from participating now, we will be offending Benjamin, which is equivalent to offending the Shudu military. You have to understand, Sun Shu said calmly, our relationship with Link is now irreconcilable. Benjamin has always supported Link. Even if we don't offend him, he and we are natural enemies. Not to mention that this is a life and death moment for White Crane Hall. If we don't show the dignity of White Crane Hall, it will fall apart on its own without the help of outsiders. You see, Father has been lying in bed for a whole day. Of the 8 gangs under White Crane Hall, no one has come to visit him, not even a phone call. Do you know why? Because they're all watching how we're going to deal with the Link gang. If we can't do anything to the Link gang now, these gangs will soon find an excuse to leave us, and they will know that White Crane Hall is no longer able to deal with them. So this time, we have to take action. We can only take action. Besides, this is the internal affairs of the gangs in the slums. We used our connections to make Link withdraw from the competition, and the reason we gave was reasonable and legal. Even if Benjamin doesn't like it, he can't use the military to put pressure on us, so don't be afraid of the military. In the land of Shandu, we must act according to the rules. Even the military can't meddle with the affairs of the gangs in the slums. The military power in Shandu is like a big pie. Commander Mun has taken a bigger part of it, but the others are all coveting it. If someone really catches him, he'll definitely be impeached by the other 3 commanders. I'm only attacking according to the rules set by the 3 emperors of Shudu. No one can do anything to us. After listening to Sun Shu's long analysis, 9th brother's expression became sharp, and his messy thoughts were straightened out. Then, 2nd brother, what should we do next? It's just a beauty contest for rare creatures, it can't stop Link, can it? Sun Shu took a sip of tea. The bitter taste of the tea jumped on his taste buds, stimulating his nerves to stay awake. One step at a time. Keep an eye on the Link gang for the next few days and gather information. Report any news they have immediately. We'll do our best to stop any of the Link gang's activities. Sun Shu heaved a long sigh of relief after he finished speaking. All the pressure and anger that had accumulated over the past 2 days had been released through his words just now. Right, how's 11? Has he woken up? Sun Shu suddenly asked. Old Nine's face couldn't help but sink at the mention of his youngest sworn brother, and his tone became dejected as well. After all, he was the one who had chopped off 11's hand. 11 has woken up, but he's been in low spirits. He can't accept the fact that he lost both his arms. There was no sorrow in Sun Shu's eyes. Instead, he was determined. Give him some advice. If he really can't do it, find a mechanic to custom make a set of neural-connected mechanical arms after he's discharged. As for the money, ask us brothers to pool our money together. We still have it. Thump thump thump. After a series of urgent knocks, Old Ten pushed the door open and entered, his face full of fear. 2nd brother, it's bad. Link is at the hospital. Sun Shu's body trembled, and his face was full of shock. He did not expect Lin Ke to come to the hospital at this time. 2nd brother, he's here to condemn us, right? 9th brother said from the side. Sun Shu tidied up his clothes, got up, and rubbed his face to make himself look as energetic as possible. Why are you panicking? No matter what, the Link gang is under the White Crane Hall. Are you all so scared now that they're here? Bring out the dignity and confidence of White Crane Hall, don't let others look down on you. Sun Shu shouted, his words were like a loud bell, deafening everyone. 9th Guardian and 10th Guardian suddenly came to their senses. Old Ten nodded at the door. His frightened expression completely disappeared, and he regained his calm in a moment. 2nd brother, I know what to do. I'll wait at the elevator and bring the people in. Sun Shu sat back on the sofa, cleaning the teacups with a wooden clip. After a while, there was the sound of footsteps outside, followed by a steady knock on the door. Second brother, Link is here to visit my father on behalf of the leader, Mr. Linear. Please enter. Old Ten pushed the door open, and Sun Shu also got up from the sofa, a meaningful smile on his lips. Mr. Lin, it's an honor to meet you. I've also been looking forward to meeting Second Grand Guardian. Today, I've seen that he really lives up to his reputation. Link paused and arranged for Fu to bring the supplements into the house. If Ninth Guardian and the others didn't come to inform me yesterday, I wouldn't even know that Old Crane was unconscious. I just cleaned up the gang yesterday and rushed here today. I hope I'm not the last person to arrive among the 8 subordinate gangs. Link's words were unusually sharp, and there was a hint of sarcasm in his words of concern. As White Crane Hall's fan, Sun Shu naturally understood what Link was trying to say. He was saying that the other 7 gangs were all sitting on the fence and watching how many fangs White Crane Hall would have left after Elder He fell. Hehe, we're already very grateful that you've come to visit us, Mr. Lin. When my foster father wakes up later and finds out that Mr. Lin is so concerned, he'll definitely be very pleased. Mr. Lin has managed the Link gang so well, and now you've made a name for yourself in the slums. You're definitely a pillar of our White Crane Hall. Sun Shu once again threw pressure and righteousness onto Link. He'd warned Old Crane that he'd wake up and emphasized his status again to let Link know his place and not cross the line. I've brought some nutritional supplements with me. I hope Old Crane can recover as soon as possible. Otherwise, with Old Crane's collapse, the huge White Crane Hall will fall on your shoulders, Second Guardian. I've also heard rumors these past 2 days that the Freemasonry and Dasaki are both ready to make a move, as if they're coveting our inland water transportation gang's territory. Link sighed, I have to say, a friend in need is a friend indeed. Last time, Old Crane decided to give some of Link's territory to the other 3 factions. Now, only the Hidden Alliance has remained neutral. It seems that they are true friends. Sun Shu's eyes flashed with a cold light. Link was indeed extraordinary. Chapter 183 If you want to do it big. These 2 sentences were simply heart-wrenching. It even gave Sun Shu the urge to kill Link. Link's words clearly showed that he had seen the transaction records in the folder and knew about the insider trading of White Crane Hall. This also confirmed that the underground treasury was indeed Link's doing. However, Sun Shu had no way of doing so. On one hand, he was not confident in killing Link with just 9 and himself. On the other hand, Link traveled openly with many hidden sentries behind him. If he killed Link in the hospital, the news would spread throughout the slums in less than half an hour. The White Crane Hall did not follow the rules, and everyone wanted to punish them. This sentence was not just for show. Hehe, thank you for your kind intentions, Mr. Lin. After foster father wakes up and eats these nutritional supplements you've sent, I think he'll recover very quickly. Oh, by the way, there's another reason I'm here other than to visit you, Old Crane. Oh? Please go on, Mr. Linear. Sun Shu was a little curious. In a few days, I'll be holding an exhibition of rare animals in the Upper City District. As the general supervisor of the White Crane Hall and the boss of the Link Gang, Second Guardian should invite you to cut the ribbon and attend the exhibition. I hope he'll come. Sun Shu was stunned when he heard this. He was prepared to hear more from Link, but he never expected it to be about rare animals. Old 9 and Old 10, who were standing guard at the side, were also stunned for a moment. They exchanged a look and saw the shock in each other's eyes. The rare animals beauty pageant had already disqualified Link from the competition. Now, Link said he was going to hold a rare animal exhibition. What was going on? This was the first time Sun Shu had heard of this matter, and he couldn't make a decision. He said vaguely, I don't know if my foster father will wake up by then. Mr. Lin, you can send someone to inform me before the event if I have time. I'll definitely be there to witness it. Link chuckled and couldn't help but sigh. It's completely understandable that filial piety is the most important virtue. Second Guardian is guarding Old Crane's sickbed day and night. If Old Crane could feel it, he would be very comforted. Link then stood up. The second tycoon has recently taken over White Crane Hall's affairs. He has to keep an eye on Elder Crane in the hospital and think about the strategic direction of White Crane Hall. I've achieved my purpose for coming here today, so I'll take my leave now. Take care, Mr. Lin. I have to take care of my foster father, so I can't see you off. Old 9, Old 10, you two see Mr. Lin off. After Link left, Sun Shu stood up and stood by the window, frowning. After a while, Old 9 and Old 10 came in and couldn't wait to ask, "Second brother, I'm very sure that Link has been removed from the rare animal beauty pageant. After sending him off, I called to confirm that Link has indeed been removed. But why did he say that he's inviting us to some rare animal exhibition?" Sun Shu looked into the distance at Link's back and said, "Didn't you guys hear what he said? He's organizing a rare animal exhibition. It seems like he's not satisfied with being removed from the list and wants to put it on display." Sun Shu's lips curled into a smile. It seemed like the plan this time was very successful. Link had been disqualified from the preliminaries, so he decided to hold a rare animal exhibition to fight in the competition. If he did not guess wrong, Benjamin was definitely behind this. With Link's current power and connections, he was still too young to hold an animal show in the uptown and compete with the beauty pageant hosted by the Shadow Entertainment News and the Upper City Ladies. However, with Benjamin's help, at least they would be able to attract some audience. Even if they didn't cause a commotion, at least Link and Benjamin could find a place to go. Continue to keep an eye on Link's gang. If Link does anything else, do everything you can to stop him. After the conversation just now, I'm sure that Link was the one who stole the underground vault. He already knows about our deal with the Hidden Alliance. Brother, will Link tell everyone about this? Ninth brother's face was filled with anxiety. Sun Shu's eyes were burning. No, if he were to tell anyone, we'd die for colluding with other forces. But Link has violated a taboo. There's no way he'll survive. Link is a smart person. He won't use such a self-harming move. After meeting with Link today, I've been less worried about the Link gang. Link's a smart person, we just have to play with him within the rules. What I'm most worried about now is Ying Luo. Sun Shu's brows were tightly knitted together. When he thought about how the other 5 halls of the water transportation gang had not taken any action, he felt a sense of powerlessness. Just as Sun Shu was thinking, his phone suddenly rang urgently. After Sun Shu picked up the phone and looked at the caller ID on the screen, his pupils suddenly shrank, and his eyes seemed to be filled with horror. What should have come has come, Zhen. Link's anger was greatly reduced after he went to the hospital and talked to Sun Shu. He truly didn't expect that White Crane Hall would still dare to continue looking for trouble with him even though it was on the verge of collapse. Was this Bro Flat Top's attribute? However, after meeting Sun Shu, he finally understood. Sun Shu was the same type of person as him. They both liked to walk on a tightrope and were opportunists who were trapped in the rules. On the way back, Lin Kei's phone buzzed as he received a text message. "Anna, I heard you were removed from the Rare Animal Beauty Contest? I was prepared to support you." Link, yes, someone cancelled the registration on the grounds that there was a problem with the registration process. Anna, what a pity. I thought your participation this year would bring a refreshing feeling to the beauty contest, but now it seems that it will become a stage for the various families to compete with each other. Link, you can come to my rare animal exhibition. You'll definitely be surprised. Anna, you're holding a rare animal exhibition? Also, Ying Luo, is this an invitation? Link, yeah, I'll invite all my friends in Chita to visit. Anna, oh, please inform me in advance when it's held. Link put his phone away after sending the message. He looked out the window and let out a breath of air. Today's incident was completely unexpected. The organizers had disqualified Lin Kei for safety reasons in the registration process. Even when Benjamin went up to ask for an explanation, the other party insisted that they did not give this young master of the uptown military any face at all. In the end, the angry Benjamin said something that made Link's eyes light up. "Brother Lin, since the organizers have disqualified you from the competition, we'll organize an exhibition ourselves and compete with them." Link's first reaction was that Benjamin was getting carried away. However, seeing Benjamin's serious expression, even Li Zijun began to analyze the proposal with interest. Link's eyes brightened. If this kind of cultural brand event was made big, it would have a huge impact. And Link had the capital and the conditions. Chapter 184. From now on, there will be no more White Crane Hall. The Uptown Rare Animal Beauty Pageant was for socializing and showing off. Marx's capital once said that one could see the essence through the phenomenon. The essence of the Rare Animal Beauty Pageant was to compete in wealth, power, and power. The reason why Link wanted to participate in the Rare Animal Beauty Pageant was to make it known that the Link clan had high-quality pets. The White Crane Hall had been operating crazily behind his back, using their connections to disqualify Link from the competition. Link, Benjamin, and Li Zijun were not people to be trifled with. Benjamin immediately proposed to organize an exhibition of rare animals to fight against him. After thinking about it, Link felt that it was possible. When it came to the number of rare animals, Link wasn't bragging, but no one would dare to claim first place if he claimed second. He would work with Benjamin to organize a rare animal exhibition. On one hand, it would make Link's reputation as a rare animal known, and on the other hand, Benjamin could earn some revenue and save money for his own dream wedding. Lin Ke did not expect that Li Zijun, who had always been an iron-blooded soldier, would actually agree with this idea. Although the Rare Animal Beauty Contest seems to be a tea party for the ladies, in reality, seniority is based on family power and the degree of favor. Commander Mun was usually low-key, and his wife would reject such invitations whenever she could. It seems like some people don't care about the Mun family's influence anymore. With Li Zijun's affirmation, Benjamin was even more assured. "Brother Lin, calm down and go back today. Prepare some rare animals. I'll take care of the venue." Link was ready to let go of this matter, so he said, "Fu is fully in charge of this matter. We'll just let Captain Li and Fu communicate with each other." Just as Link was trying to recall what had happened that morning, Fred, who was driving in the front seat, stopped the car and turned around. "Boss, we're back." Link returned to his senses and got out of the car. As soon as he entered the sect courtyard, Third Brother and his subordinates rushed forward. "Boss, the preliminaries are over already." "Don't ask. If you ask, it means that the alpacas that Link helped are invincible. They easily passed the preliminaries, so they came back early." Just as everyone was trying to curry favor with him, Fu came in with a depressed look, followed by Fred and the bandit, who pushed the iron cage in with a small cart. Their faces were listless, and no smile could be seen. They even gave off a feeling of depression. The third brother, Mr. Kong, swept his gaze over everyone and keenly captured their expressions. Only the boss still had a smile on his face, and no one could tell what he was thinking. As expected of the boss. Even if Mount Tai collapses in front of him, his expression doesn't change. It's impossible to see through his thoughts through his expression. Mr. Kong sighed in his heart. "Our placings were cancelled, so we came back early," Link shrugged. All the members of the Link gang gasped at this. Even Mr. Kong's head was buzzing. Mr. Kong was confused. "That's impossible. I signed up for it myself. How could we be disqualified?" "White Crane Hall." Mr. Kong knew the reason in just 5 words. The White Crane Hall must have used their connections with some families uptown to disqualify the Link gang from the competition. "Boss, let's go." Mr. Kong didn't think it was necessary. Now that they had the cash and gold from White Crane Hall, the Link gang could increase its strength as long as they recruited more people and bought horses. "Don't worry, I'm planning to organize a rare animal exhibition with Benjamin, and compete with the Uptown Nobles' activities. Mr. Kong suddenly felt a sense of pressure. The boss's decision made him feel suffocated. The noble forces of the uptown were behind the rare animal beauty pageant, and each of them alone could cause a huge commotion in Shandu. Now that the boss had chosen to join hands with Benjamin, directly going against the other noble forces uptown, this action, no matter how you looked at it, was like a knight going to his death. Mr. Kong was very puzzled. As the captain of the fox hunting special forces, did Li Zijun not stop this decision? Benjamin's character was immature, and he was overprotected by the troops, so he often did things his way. Even if this face-to-face confrontation failed, the others wouldn't do anything to the only son of the Mun Kingdom's commander. On the other hand, their boss might be targeted and boycotted by the uptown nobles. This way, the disadvantages outweighed the benefits. Boss. Mr. Kong was about to speak, but Link spoke first. All right, don't be remorseful. Where he fell, he would get up. Fu, you and Captain Li will pass on the information. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask third brother. For the time being, we will focus on dealing with White Crane Hall. Also, I want you to go out and find some wild animals in the slums, in preparation for the upcoming rare animal exhibition. The members of White Crane Hall listened attentively, and those who had accepted the mission had a serious expression on their faces. Although the boss did not say anything, everyone knew that being withdrawn was White Crane Hall's counterattack. As for the arrogance of the uptown nobles, perhaps because they were all born in the slums, everyone felt that they could not make enemies with the real ruling class, so all their hatred simply gathered on the White Crane Hall. Wang wang wang. The phone in Link's pocket vibrated. The treasure-hunting mouse scurried into Link's pocket and grabbed the bottom of his pants tightly with its two hind claws. It then sneaked into the pocket and unsteadily took out the phone. Link picked up his phone. It was a message from an intelligence officer in the slums. A message? Link was confused. What kind of information would there be at this time? However, when Link opened the message, his pupils contracted. He felt as if the goddess he had been trying so hard to get had been taken away by someone else. Cough cough. Link coughed and said to everyone, the focus of the next stage has suddenly changed. Everyone can focus on finding wild animals. As a white paper fan, the third brother, Mr. Kong, was the first to smell the problem. Just now, Boss had said that the focus of the next stage was to fight against White Crane Hall, but now after watching the phone, the topic had changed to looking for pets. Boss, did something happen in White Crane Hall? Link nodded and showed everyone the message he had received. The intelligence personnel in the slums just sent a message. The nine-striped dragon of the Azure Dragon Hall has brought a large number of subordinates to the White Crane Hall and has taken over the White Crane Hall. All the tycoons who stayed in White Crane Hall, except for Sixth, were driven out. When third brother heard this, he immediately reacted. After a day of silence, the leader of the water transportation gang, Green Dragon, made his move. I'm afraid that after today, there will be no more White Crane Hall in the slums. 185 Chapter 185, Splitting the Money and Disbanding. At the first hospital of Sha City. After Sun Shu hung up the phone, he fell onto the sofa as if he had lost his soul. The mobile phone in his hand gradually fell to the ground. Through the transparent monitoring glass, Sun Shu looked at his foster father, who was unconscious in the ICU ward, with dull eyes. It's over, it's all over. Old Nine looked at the dazed Sun Shu and could not help but ask, "Second brother, what's going on?" Sun Shu let out a breath of turbid air, his body devoid of strength. We were so focused on Link that we forgot about the giant thing above us. Sun Shu's eyes were filled with despair. He raised his head and glanced at Old Nine and Old 10. The Azure Dragon Hall has made their move. The boss of the Azure Dragon Hall said on the phone that he has sent the 9-patterned dragon and a group of experts to guard the White Crane Hall and help them deal with the crisis. Upon hearing this, Old Nine felt the world spin in his head. 10th Guardian, who was standing at the side, immediately cursed, "What do you mean by helping us deal with the crisis? He's clearly taking advantage of foster father's unconscious state to take over White Crane Hall. When my foster father was awake, he was always supporting the boss of Azure Dragon. Now that he's unconscious, the Black Tortoise Hall, Vermilion Bird Hall, and Thunder Tiger Hall are not doing anything, but the Azure Dragon Hall is the first to get restless. This F***ing Bayan." Sun Shu leaned back on the sofa, his eyes dull, and replied mechanically, "Because only by holding White Crane Hall firmly in our hands, the day after tomorrow, the assembly of the 6 branches of the Inland Water Gang will also be the day of re-election for the new leader of the year." Now that his foster father was unconscious, he was afraid that he would lose his position as the boss of Green Dragon if he lost one of his supporters. At this time, supporting a force to protect White Crane Hall, to protect his dominant vote, this is what he thinks. But, what right does the Azure Dragon Hall have to occupy our White Crane Hall? Ninth brother's tone was filled with confusion and grievance. Because 6th brother wrote a letter asking for help, asking the Azure Dragon Hall to send people to help. Sun Shu slowly raised his head and looked at his 2 sworn brothers. 6th brother has betrayed us. The eyes of the 2 people in front of him were about to pop out of their sockets, and their fists were clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. Damn it! We arranged for 6th brother to look after the house, but he just sold White Crane Hall. With the letter asking for help, the Azure Dragon Hall had a good reason to do so, so outsiders naturally could not make any comments. The Azure Dragon Hall, with the excuse of protecting the territory and property of the White Crane Hall, directly entered the White Crane Hall, leaving no chance for others to react. Moreover, Green Dragon's boss's meaning was clear on the phone. He would return White Crane Hall to Old Crane when he recovered and woke up. Green Dragon's boss's words kept echoing in Sun Shu's mind. "I'm not worried about Old Crane personally running White Crane Hall, but he's in a coma right now. You juniors are still lacking experience if you want to run a hall well. That's why I'll send the 9-patterned dragon to White Crane Hall to take charge. When Old Crane wakes up, I'll return White Crane Hall to him. After all, the White Crane Hall is not only Old Crane's hall, but also one of the 6 branches of my gang. As the head of the gang, I have to consider the whole gang." His words were so righteous that Sun Shu could not find any reason to refute. Moreover, the boss of the Green Dragon was extremely domineering. He had acted first and reported later. The 9-patterned dragon had probably brought his men to the White Crane Hall by now, and 6th brother had already let them in. Sun Shu let out a long sigh and said, "I'm afraid that 6th brother is a spy planted by Azure Dragon Hall and White Crane Hall. Now that foster father is unconscious, the spy has already taken full control of White Crane Hall. If nothing goes wrong, during the meeting of the 6 branches of the gang the day after tomorrow, Boss Azure Dragon will propose that 6th brother will temporarily take over the White Crane Hall. At that time, 6th brother will be the puppet hall master, and the 9-striped dragon will assist him, completely taking over the White Crane Hall." Old 9 and Old 10's faces had long since turned deathly pale. They didn't expect that the Azure Dragon Hall, which had always been on the same side as them, would actually have a hidden hand in the White Crane Hall. They found it hard to accept. Just as the 3 of them were silent, the phone on the ground rang again. Sun Shu came back to his senses and picked up the phone from the ground. As soon as he picked up the call, he heard a confused voice on the other end. "Second brother, the 9-striped dragon of the Azure Dragon Hall has taken over the White Crane Hall. Most of the brothers have chosen to stay and pledge loyalty to 6th brother and the 9-striped dragon. Those of us who aren't loyal to them have been driven out." "I know," Sun Shu said in a hoarse voice, "you can all come to the hospital." After hanging up, Sun Shu's thoughts raced. After the 9-patterned dragon moved into the White Crane Hall, 6th brother would definitely tell him about the theft of the underground vault. Without the gold, without the title deed, White Crane Hall was just an empty shell. So if he was right, if sixth brother wanted to take control of White Crane Hall, his next step would definitely be to get back the title deed and property of White Crane Hall from Link. Sun Shu raised his head and looked at his foster father, who showed no signs of waking up. His expression couldn't help but become serious. He had talked to the doctor in private before. His foster father's life was now completely out of danger. However, due to excessive stimulation, his brain's ability was abnormal, and he was infinitely close to being in a vegetative state. The possibility of him waking up in the later stage was not impossible, but it was extremely slim. In other words, it was very likely that the Azure Dragon Hall would directly take over the White Crane Hall. Most of the brothers of White Crane Hall had chosen to pledge their loyalty to the sixth brother and the nine-striped dragon, so they were now weak. If this went on, it was very likely that they would not even have a place to stand in Shandu. Now, if he wanted to turn the tables and take back White Crane Hall from the boss of Green Dragon, there was only one way. After a while, the other tycoons who had been driven away also arrived at the hospital. Second brother, what do we do now? Seeing the despair and hatred in his sworn brother's eyes, Sun Shu said calmly, now that things have come to this, it's impossible to take back White Crane Hall. The boss of Green Dragon has never spat out anything that has been in his mouth. Moreover, with my foster father's current state, he has the Azure Dragon Hall and Link's help. We can't do anything with just a few people. Sun Shu took out a card from his pocket and placed it on the table. This is foster father's personal bank card. The money inside is enough for foster father's medical expenses, and enough for you to live a life of luxury, Ying Luo. When the other tycoons heard this, they were all dumbfounded. Second brother, does Ran Ran not intend to resist and want to split the money? Sun Shu suddenly stood up, put his suit jacket on his shoulder, and shouted, right. You're a bunch of imbeciles who only know how to use brute force and never use your brains to think. You were like this when foster father was still around, but now that he has fallen, can't you all be more mature? I can't carry you anymore. You fools are still dreaming of turning the tables, you're simply dreaming. I'm not going to keep you company, F***CKU. Sun Shu flipped over the tea table, kicked the door open, and left. Even second older brother is afraid. What second brother? I've never had such a second brother. Sun Shu left the hospital after hearing the noise in the room. When he walked into the elevator, he muttered in a voice that only he could hear, idiot, this is the only way you won't be retaliated against. You must live on and wait for my return, Ying Luo. In the next second, Sun Shu's eyes were filled with determination. Now, if he wanted to turn the tables, he could only leave Shandu and find the first tycoon that he had never met before, his big brother. With that person's current identity, the day he returned to Shandu would be the day he took back White Crane Hall. Even Link couldn't escape. Chapter 186 A Mysterious Visitor. Third brother, do you know what kind of person the nine-patterned dragon is? Link asked after summoning number 3 to his office. In his previous life, when he was in Shudu, he had very little contact with these gangs. Most of the time, he was out farming monsters and earning gold. As for the nine-patterned dragon of the Azure Dragon Hall, he had only heard of it. The third brother frowned. It was not that he did not know about the nine-patterned dragon. On the contrary, he knew too much. Nine-patterned dragon, about 30 years old, real name unknown, nickname because of the 9 dragons tattooed on its body. He had been with the boss of the Green Dragon Hall since the very beginning. He was also the best fighter in the gang. He had followed the boss of the Green Dragon gang and made a name for himself in the slums. It played an important role in the merging of the 6 halls of the Water Transportation Division. It can be said that the Water Transportation gang's status in the slums today is all thanks to this person. His iron fists are invincible. Even Hitanjian and Old Turtle can't say that he can defeat the 9-patterned dragon. Link fiddled with the lighter as he listened to third brother. If I'm not mistaken, this 9-striped dragon might be the number 1 person in the Water Transportation gang. Third brother nodded and said, based on the information I have so far, it's very likely to be so. The other 5 hall masters had more or less fought before and achieved some results. However, the 9-striped dragon had been with the green dragon boss since the beginning. This also led to the green dragon boss not fighting, and no one knew his strength at all. However, as far as the people in the water transportation gang are concerned, if we don't count green dragon's boss, the 9-striped dragon's strength is likely to be the strongest. It was Link's turn to be troubled. His C-rank mission, Turtle Dove taken over the Magpie's Nest, required him to take over all of White Crane Hall's properties. Seeing that he was about to completely destroy White Crane Hall, Azure Dragon Hall seized the opportunity and took control of White Crane Hall before him. Now, he wanted to take over White Crane Hall. He had to face the 2 flower red sticks under the boss of Green Dragon, who was also the most capable fighter in the water transportation gang, and the whole Green Dragon Hall behind him. Link fell into deep thought. He did not want to give up on a C-rank mission with rich experience and rewards. The system did not make any real-time changes to the difficulty of the mission, which means that the system still sees the mission as a C-rank mission. This also means that there are definitely other shortcuts other than using brute force. Link lowered his head in thought. He suddenly asked, why is the Azure Dragon Hall in such a hurry to act? Hitanjian has only been unconscious for a day, and the boss of the Green Dragon can't wait to arrange for the 9-patterned dragon to take over the White Crane Hall. According to the usual train of thought, he should at least wait and see for a while. Perhaps it's because the day after tomorrow is the day of the annual meeting of the 6 great halls of the Shui Yun gang. Every year, the 6 hall masters will vote to choose a dragon head. Old Turtle had been in charge for 2 terms, but after the 9-striped dragon successfully foiled the Secret Alliance and Freemasonry's plot to deal with the water transportation gang, his power increased greatly. After that, the position of the head has always been the boss of Green Dragon. This year, Hitanjian was unconscious, and White Crane Hall lost a vote. Boss Green Dragon was afraid that the votes would change and he would not be able to secure his position as the leader, so he hurriedly sent the 9-striped dragon to occupy White Crane Hall. It is very likely that he will send a puppet hall master to maintain the votes. This explanation should be the most reasonable. Link couldn't help but nod. Third brother's analysis was very reasonable. It was very likely that the Azure Dragon Hall had taken over the White Crane Hall in a hurry to secure a vote. If that was the case, then Link didn't have much time left. The entry of the 9-patterned dragon into the White Crane Hall officially marked the collapse of the original system of the White Crane Hall, with Hitanjian as the center and the 13 gangsters as the support. Because the 9-veined dragon was very famous in the water transportation gang and was a double flower red stick, there were no conflicts during the whole process of handing over the dragon. Even many of the original White Crane Hall's thugs had lost confidence in their superiors after experiencing Link's one-man massacre, the theft of the underground vault, and Old Crane's coma. When they saw the 9-striped dragon take over, they decisively chose to surrender. When the sects under White Crane Hall learned that the 9-patterned dragon had taken over White Crane Hall, they no longer pretended to be dead. They immediately went to White Crane Hall in person and expressed their support for the 9-patterned dragon to take over. The 6th Guardian of White Crane Hall wrote a letter to the Azure Dragon Hall for help. After reading the message, the Azure Dragon's boss immediately sent the 9-striped dragon and his capable men to White Crane Hall for help. He also publicly stated that the 6th Guardian was the most suitable candidate to temporarily take over as the Hall Master of White Crane Hall. As for the few tycoons who had different opinions, they left White Crane Hall and went straight to the 2nd Tycoon's office of the city hospital. After that, in the hospital, several tycoons fell out with each other due to differences in opinions. In a fit of anger, 2nd Tycoon Sun Shu took the train at noon and left Shandu. The rest of the people also returned to their own houses after splitting the money, leaving only 9th brother and 10th brother to take care of the unconscious Hitanjian and 11th guardian Wan Wan in the hospital. "Master, White Crane Hall is gone just like that." The unkempt old man sitting on the wooden chair scratched his feet, but his expression did not change much. On the other hand, the young man who was reading the information just now was stunned. He couldn't understand how his old rival, who he had been fighting with for so long, had completely collapsed all of a sudden. This huge subconsciousness contrast was something he couldn't accept at once. The Azure Dragon is really smart. It's only been a day, and he can't help but send the 9-patterned dragon to take over the White Crane Hall. He really can't wait a second longer. Old Turtle's face was full of mockery. This Azure Dragon was becoming more and more hypocritical. Wu Wen, who was helping to fan the air, suddenly thought of something. He couldn't help but ask in bewilderment, so, this year's leader will still be the Azure Dragon Hall? Master has the support of the Vermilion Bird Hall and the Thunder Tiger Hall, the Green Dragon Hall has the support of the Viper Hall, and now he has stabilized the White Crane Hall. As long as he supports one of the tycoons, he will continue to be the boss with the votes of 2-2. If we knew this would happen, we would have planted a few spies in the White Crane Hall as well, and we might have been able to snatch some of the treasures from them, Wu Fu said with a vexed expression. Mr. Turtle wiped his foot and snorted coldly, He Tongjian and I have been enemies for more than 20 years, and he knows what to say as soon as he raises his butt. The matter of us having spies in each other will be discovered by the other party in less than a month. On the other hand, Azure Dragon had been planning this for a long time. I remember that the 6th brother of White Crane Hall was accepted by He Tongjian 10 years ago. I didn't expect that he was actually the spy of Azure Dragon Hall, Lao Ai. As Old Turtle spoke, he glanced at the 4 Renaissance men around him and said warily, F***ck, are you 4 also spies from the Azure Dragon Hall? Renaissance didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Master, when you picked up the 4 of us, we weren't even 1 month old. How could we be spies? That's true. I'm the one who raised you up by feeding you tea and urine. I know best what you're thinking. But I've still miscalculated this time. I thought that after what happened at White Crane Hall, I would have a 2:1 lead in the voting the day after tomorrow. I didn't expect Green Dragon to have such a trick up his sleeve. He's really ruthless. Old Turtle couldn't help but sigh. Just as the few of them were conversing, a hatchet man hurriedly entered from outside and whispered something into Wu Xing's ear. Wu Xing's mouth was wide open after he heard that. He said, Master, there's a guest here, Ying Luo. Chapter 187 Godfather of the Underworld. Wasteland Calendar Year 42, May 1st. The day of the assembly of the 6 halls of the Shui Yun Gang. In the busiest port in the slums of Shandu, there was an endless stream of ships coming and going to the port to unload their cargo. The bugle of the boatmen, the whistle of the ships, and the shouts of the busy transporting of goods made way for the crowd, which combined to form a unique lively scene at the port. In an old building on the dock, an important meeting that could affect the situation of the gangs in the slums was being held. The annual assembly of the 6 great halls of the Shui Yun Gang was held in this old building. Sigh, time passes so quickly. In the blink of an eye, 20 years have passed. I still remember 20 years ago, the 6 of us formed the water transportation gang in this old building. Old and young Turtle sighed, as if he was reminiscing about the past. After he said that, he glanced at the boss of Green Dragon, who was sitting at the head of the dragon at the end of the long table. The bald head of the Thunder Tiger Hall, Lei Zhuzi, also sighed, it's a pity that there'll be 1 less person this year. Although I've had some conflicts with Old Crane, I feel bad for lying in the hospital unconscious. Old Turtle took a puff of the cigarette and mumbled, although I usually scold He Tongjian for being a jerk, now that I'm suddenly lying on the hospital bed, I actually feel a little uncomfortable. Didn't he cultivate the immortal crane health-preserving technique? How did he become a vegetable? The woman sitting beside Mr. Turtle blew on the second-hand smoke that was spreading toward them. Her fiery red, gorgeous, and big waves carelessly covered one of her eyes, giving people the feeling that she was holding a pipa and half covering her face. She had the same fiery red lips and was wearing a red dress. She looked like an enchanting phoenix. The woman frowned and waved her hand in front of her, scattering the thick smoke. She emphasized in a lazy tone, "Old Crane isn't here today. How are we going to vote?" At this moment, the boss of Green Dragon, who was sitting at the head of the dragon at the end of the long table, leaned forward and said, "The question Mina raised is also what I want to say the most. Old Crane is in a coma now, but White Crane Hall has 8 gangs and many properties under its command. If we just leave them be, they'll easily become the focus of the other gangs' division and destruction. Therefore, I propose to select a new leader for White Crane Hall to take charge of all matters. We'll return the position after Old Crane recovers. What do you all think?" Zhao Heshan, the hall master of the Viper Hall, who was lying on the chair, raised his hand first. "I agree." Old Turtle, Lei Zhuzi, and Me Na looked at each other and said in unison, "The Dragon Head is right, the White Crane Hall needs a temporary hall master." The boss of Green Dragon clapped his hands. A man walked out from behind the screen in the main hall. The iconic white crane pattern was embroidered on the collar of his clothes. Now, White Crane Hall is without a leader. Old Crane is still unconscious, second tycoon Sun Shu has left Shandu, and the other tycoons have left with a share of the money. Only 6th tycoon is struggling to support us. When the White Crane Hall was about to collapse, 6th Guardian wrote to me asking for help, saying that the enemy gangs were ready to make a move, and that in order to protect the property of the White Crane Hall and the Water Transportation Gang, he hoped that all the major halls would help each other. After I received the letter, I immediately sent out my general, 9-Patterned Dragon, to lead a group of experts into White Crane Hall to maintain order and safety. He is also Old Crane's adopted son. In my opinion, he should temporarily take over White Crane Hall and exercise the power of acting hall master, while the 9-striped dragon will intimidate the little ones. After Old Crane awakens, the power will be retransferred. What do you all think?" 6th Guardian Lu Wei, who was standing at the side, bowed and cupped his fists. "Thank you, Boss Green Dragon, for your appreciation. I'll also have to thank all of you for your guidance in the future. I, Lu Wei, will definitely learn from all of you." After Lu Wei finished speaking, Zhao Heshan, the sickly scholar, waved his hand weakly. "I can't say I'm giving you advice, but it's enough to lead the White Crane Hall well." On the other side, Old Turtle, Lei Zhuzi, and Me Na were sizing up Lu Wei with undisguised contempt in their eyes. They ignored Lu Wei as if they had not heard him. The boss of Green Dragon swept his gaze across the 4 people at the long table and raised his hand to signal for the reserved Lu Wei to take a seat at the White Crane Hall. Just as Lu Wei was about to pull out the wooden chair, Old Turtle, who was sitting opposite him, suddenly flicked off the ash from his old hanyan and dusted it all over the table. "Hold on. If it's about the matter of the acting hall master of White Crane Hall, I happen to have a recommender on my side, and I think Lu Wei is more suitable." The boss of Green Dragon frowned slightly. Old Turtle's sudden change of formation was beyond his expectation. Green Dragon's boss's expression remained unchanged as he asked, "Oh, does Old Turtle have a different opinion?" The corners of Old Turtle's mouth lifted into a smile as he stared at Lu Wei. His peaceful eyes carried a sense of judgment, causing a chill to run down Lu Wei's back. "As far as I know, He Tongjian suddenly fell into a coma this time because he learned that the underground vault of White Crane Hall was robbed. Other than the money, all the deeds of White Crane Hall were also stolen, so White Crane Hall is now empty, right?" Lu Wei was flustered and said with a trembling voice, "That's right. But after I take office, with Big Brother 9-striped Dragon's assistance, I'm sure we can recover all the losses in the first place." "So, your ability has not been verified yet?" Old Turtle chuckled. "You still need the 9-patterned dragon's help to find the title deed?" The Hall Master of Thunder Tiger Hall, Lei Zhuzi, also said, "I'll be even more worried if he's in charge of White Crane Hall with this kind of ability. The White Crane Hall controls many of the water transportation gang's businesses. If we hand them over to a brat who has yet to prove himself, wouldn't it attract more covetous eyes? The Vermilion Bird Hall's hall master Me-Na tied up her hair and echoed, I think it's better to find the title deed first and prove my strength, then be the acting hall master. What do you think? Lu Wei's face turned red and his fists were clenched. He looked up at Green Dragon's boss for help. Unexpectedly, the boss of Green Dragon did not even look at him. Instead, he stared at the three of them with interest, wanting to see what kind of backup plan they had. Well said, Mina. Whoever can get the land deed back will be the most suitable person to take the position of acting hall master of White Crane Hall. Lei Zhuzi looked at Old Turtle and Me-Na, who were sitting on the same side. Zhao Heshan, the sick scholar, did not say a word either. He glanced at the Green Dragon's expression. He could tell that the three people opposite him were now talking one after another and were definitely starting to stir up trouble. Unfortunately, I do have a suitable candidate that I need to recommend. Why don't we pull them up and let everyone choose? Old Turtle asked. Oh, then please come up. It just so happens that I'd like to see what this person, who even the strict Old Turtle thinks is a good candidate, looks like. Old Turtle clapped his hands, and the door of the main hall opened slowly. Everyone's eyes were focused on the outside of the door. The door opened, and a young man in a suit slowly walked into the main hall. The treasure-hunting mouse was curled up in Link's hand, allowing Link to pet it. Lei Zhuzi's eyes flickered, Me-Na bit her red lips as she looked at the handsome young man with interest, and Old Turtle looked confident. Whether it was his figure or bearing, Link gave off the aura of a mafia godfather. He was far superior to the submissive sixth tycoon Lu Wei. White Crane Hall's subordinate, Link, helps the person in charge, Link. Greetings, Hall Masters. Chapter 188 Nine-Patterned Dragon. Link was neither humble nor arrogant. He glanced at the people at the table and finally fixed his eyes on the sixth tycoon, Lu Wei. He laughed in disdain. Lu Wei was dumbfounded. He never thought that Link would actually appear here. He had originally planned to bring the nine-patterned dragon to find Link after taking over as the acting hall master of White Crane Hall and force him to hand over the land deed and the property of White Crane Hall. Previously, 9th, 10th, and 11 of the 13 gangsters had come to search. Not only did they not find anything, but 11's arm had also been cut off by Link. It was a total disgrace. However, Lu Wei was very confident this time. Green Dragon's boss even lent him the water transportation gang's double flower red stick. Wouldn't it be a piece of cake to deal with Link? Only the person who was the best at fighting in a gang was qualified to be called a double flower red stick. The nine-patterned dragon was publicly acknowledged as the strongest fighter among the 6 halls of the water transportation gang, and his battle record was so outstanding that even the Old Turtle, who had always been unconvinced by everyone, had to give him a thumbs up in this respect. But now, instead of staying in the Link gang, Link had come to the annual meeting of the water transportation gang. Was he seeking his own death? The Old Turtle's eyes shone with excitement. Thinking of what Link had told him yesterday, he couldn't help but feel happy. Link, you're the most popular young man in the slums. You have a bright future ahead of you. The Turtle Elder concluded Link in 2 words. It was rather appropriate. Standing behind him was the former #1 assassin artist on Wasteland Planet, John. Everyone had witnessed Link's achievements in the slums. He had even made a name for himself in the Chateau Coliseum over the weekend. He had even been interviewed at the end of the show on Chateau TV. His performance was jaw-dropping, and his answers were humorous. He was young but had a mature charm. Coupled with his handsome face, he had captured the hearts of countless young girls in Chateau. In the past, the upper city's noble ladies had all regarded the gangs in the slums as scourge. His impression of them was that they were ugly, scarred, and fierce men. However, Link had single-handedly changed this one-sided impression in the interview. So, a sect leader could also be extremely charming, handsome, and humorous. Thunder Tiger Hall Master Lei Zhuzi's eyes lit up as he said, I know this kid. He just appeared on TV this weekend. He seems to have some skills in gambling. If you have time, let's play a few rounds. Me from the Vermilion Bird Hall was even more straightforward, revealing a rare seductive gesture. Little brother, do you want to have a drink together after this? She even raised her hand and made a drinking gesture. With her seductive movements and winking, she could almost steal a person's soul. However, Link didn't think much of it. Instead, the treasure-hunting mouse in his hand suddenly turned around, its 4 claws facing the sky. Oslo. Haha, I've heard about Link too. I think he's a young man worth training. But if it's the Hall Master of White Crane Hall, he's only been in the slums for a month, I'm afraid he doesn't have enough experience. Azure Dragon's boss asked doubtfully. The turtle elder had a victorious smile on his face. He waved his hand, signaling Link to speak. Link nodded and walked out. I didn't know about the theft of White Crane Hall's underground vault at first. It was only a few days ago that Ninth Guardian brought people to investigate. He insisted that I stole a large amount of White Crane Hall's assets. After a round of searching, they found nothing. After they left, I thought that since the other party was so sure that I stole it, then I should wash away my bad name and give myself justice, so I began to investigate the whole matter in secret. In the end, hard work paid off, and we found the lost land title deed and information in the garbage dump of the slums. Link paused and glanced at 6th Guardian Lu Wei. He couldn't help but smile. In order to check if everything was in good condition, I opened all the files and took a look. As it turned out, when Lao Ai found the title deeds, he also discovered some dirty deals between the White Crane Hall and the Hidden Alliance. He secretly sold the territories and industries that belonged to the water transportation gang under the excuse of territory competition and profited a lot from them. Link took out a stack of documents and threw them on the table. After discovering the abnormality, I didn't dare to make a sound for fear of being killed. I waited until today at the annual gang gathering before I dared to come out and tell the truth. Link placed his hands on the table and leaned forward. He stared at Lu Wei and said, "But I think 6th Guardian knows more about it than I do. After all, he has participated in many sales and has received a lot of commission. What do you think, 6th Guardian?" The atmosphere in the room reached a freezing point as Link spoke. Lu Wei's face turned pale. Although he was a spy planted in White Crane Hall by Boss Azure Dragon 10 years ago, he had never reported to Boss Azure Dragon about White Crane Hall's private territory and property transactions. Moreover, he had also received a lot of kickbacks and benefits from the Secret Alliance through selling his assets. It could be said that he had taken advantage of Azure Dragon Hall, White Crane Hall, and the Secret Alliance all by himself. Boss Azure Dragon's expression didn't change, but the other hall masters' faces were filled with shock. This Lao Ai, Tong Yan, this old brat, is too bold. The 6 halls of the Shui Yun gang were on the same side, but this guy actually agreed on the surface but disobeyed on the inside, acting one way on the surface but another behind the back. The Hidden Alliance has killed so many of our brothers. This guy is fighting with us on the surface, but he's actually exchanging resources with the Hidden Alliance behind our backs. Old Turtle was so angry that he blew his beard and glared. The others were also furious. Looking at Lu Wei's pale face, it seemed that this matter was true. Lu Wei's eyes swept across the crowd and finally stopped in front of the expressionless boss of Green Dragon. He knelt on the ground with a thud. "Boss Green Dragon, please spare my life. Spare me." The boss of Green Dragon supported his chin with his hand as he looked at the confidant he had placed in White Crane Hall. He had mixed feelings at the sight of the distancing look on his face due to greed. "Old Turtle, according to the rules of the Water Transportation Gang, what is the punishment for betraying the gang's interests and colluding with the gang?" Me asked. "According to the sect rules, those who violate the sect's interests and collude with outsiders will be killed without mercy." Old Turtle's tone was cold. Lu Wei's face was pale, and his back was drenched in sweat. He was completely flustered. Boss Green Dragon, save me, I'm Ying Luo. Before Lu Wei could finish his sentence, Green Dragon's boss shot him a sharp look. He instantly felt breathless, let alone speak. 9-patterned dragon, execute the punishment. As soon as he finished speaking, the figure standing behind Green Dragon's boss suddenly disappeared. In the next second, Lu Wei, who was kneeling on the ground and kowtowing for mercy, turned stiff and instantly lost his life. While everyone was still in a daze, the 9-striped dragon returned to the back of the boss of the Green Dragon gang, lowered his head and said respectfully, "Boss, it's been settled." What a fast speed! Link couldn't help but exclaim. He subconsciously cast a detect at the 9-patterned dragon. Based on the level of you and the target, you have received the following information. Name, 9-patterned dragon. Race, human. Level, LV25+, elite. Occupation, pugilist. Identity, 2 flowers and red sticks of the water transportation gang. HP, 3500/3500. Energy, 900/900. Attributes, Strength 70, Agility 70, others unknown. Specialty, Twin Dragon Life Providence. With the life providence of Twin Dragons, it can bring prosperity to the Master and obtain 10% of the Master's attributes as additional attributes. Evaluation, Clouds follow dragons, wind follows tigers. The water transportation gang's strongest double flower red stick. The few people present were also shocked by the 9-patterned dragon's strength. After a long while, the sick scholar Zhao Heshan finally said, "My strength has increased again, hee." Chapter 189. The name of Kylan. No wonder he's so strong. It turns out that he has the Twin Dragon Destiny special ability. After looking at the 9-striped dragon's data, Link was envious of this ability. If one of his subordinates had this specialty, then the improvement of strength would be as simple as eating and drinking. Link then glanced at the Green Dragon's boss, who was sitting on the dragon's head. As the other party did not attack, Lin Ke could only see the other party's level and HP. Other information was unknown. Green Dragon's boss was level 27+, elite, and was also a pugilist. His HP was also as high as 3,900. Tisk, 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 Lu Wei, that traitor, deceiving his superiors and deceiving his subordinates, obeying orders on the surface but disobeying orders on the inside. The consequences would be unimaginable if he were to become the acting hall master of White Crane Hall. I thought Hitanjian was only unconscious because of bad luck in his previous life. Now it seems that he's lucky that he can't carry out the sect rules. As for the 13 gangsters, they've either died or scattered. Who's going to be in charge of the White Crane Hall now? Lei Zhuzi, the hall master of the Thunder Tiger Hall, said helplessly as he spread his hands. Everyone's gazes fell on Link. There was a faint smile on Link's face, and he didn't show any signs of discomfort or awkwardness. Old Turtle couldn't help but clap his hands. "I think Link is very suitable," he said. "Ah. First of all, he's the leader of the Link Gang and is familiar with the affairs of White Crane Hall. Secondly, he's famous enough to be promoted to Hall Master, so it doesn't seem like our gang doesn't have new blood. Most importantly, we found the contract and documents of White Crane Hall, and also exposed Hitanjian's scheme of betraying the gang. This is definitely a great merit." "Young, powerful, famous, and accomplished," the Turtle Elder said, counting with his fingers. "If Link doesn't take the position, who else can?" Mina's eyes never left Link. She was still full of admiration and curiosity. "I also think it's time to introduce some new people. Look at us, our average age has already passed the retirement age. It's time for the management to introduce some new blood to give the people below some motivation." Sick Scholar Zhao Heshan glanced at the boss of Green Dragon and saw that his expression did not change. He went with the flow and said, "I also think that Link is qualified to be the leader of White Crane Hall." Everyone's eyes were focused on the boss of Green Dragon. He was the only one who had not expressed his opinion, which was also the most important opinion. Good, since the establishment of the water transportation gang, we have always pursued the principle of reward for merits and punishment for mistakes. Now that the truth is clear, the former master of White Crane Hall, He Tongjian, colluded with an enemy force and sold his sex assets, and there is irrefutable evidence, the master of White Crane Hall, He Tongjian, is now removed from his position. Link will help the person in charge, Link, and promote him to the new master of White Crane Hall. After Green Dragon's boss finished his announcement, the smile on Old Turtle's face was the most brilliant. He hurriedly said, "Clap, quickly clap. Welcome the new hall master." Link suddenly raised his hand, a faint smile on his face. "Wait, I don't want to be the hall master of White Crane Hall." As soon as he said that, the 4 hall masters and the dragon head were all shocked. Old Turtle, Lei Zhuzi, and Me Na exchanged glances, their faces filled with confusion. Yesterday, Link had come to find them for the position of White Crane Hall's hall master. Why did he give it up now? The sick scholar Zhao Heshan's sickly body stood up, his pale face had a sickly red flush, and his breathing became rapid. As the shipping gang's white paper fan, he only thought of the scheme Link and the other 3 had set up in order to take the position of White Crane Hall's hall master. However, she had never expected Link to reject her. Was he on the 3rd floor while Link was on the 5th? Even the Azure Dragon's boss, whose face had never changed, showed a trace of doubt. Could he have been wrong? "Oh? You don't want to be the hall master of White Crane Hall?" Link nodded again and said, "Since it has been proven that He Tongjian colluded with the enemy, it is not difficult to use the name of White Crane Hall. If you let me be the hall master of White Crane Hall, wouldn't I continue to carry this unkind and unjust name? I suggest we change the name of the hall." Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They had thought that things would develop in an unexpected direction. "Clan leader Lin, you're so mischievous. You almost scared me to death just now, hee. Mina's every move was flirtatious and alluring. She kept winking at Link. But Link didn't even care about Anna, who came to his door. Why would he care about Mina, who was old enough to be his grandmother? Indeed, White Crane Hall's reputation has been ruined by that bastard He Tongjian. It's indeed inappropriate to let Hall Master Lin inherit the name of White Crane Hall. Old Turtle agreed. "What do you think?" the boss asked Link. Since Link had brought this up, he must have thought of a good name. He Tongjian founded the White Crane Hall, and Elder Gui founded the Black Tortoise Hall. I think I should call my hall Kylan Hall. A Kylan. The eyes of sick scholar Zhao Heshan, who was standing at the side, suddenly turned sharp. This new hall master was quite interesting. The Kylan, Phoenix, Turtle, and Dragon are the 4 spirits. When a Kylan appeared, there would definitely be auspicious signs. At the same time, it was also used as a metaphor for outstanding people with both virtue and talent. Hall Master Lin, you really know how to name things. Zhao Heshan sighed. He didn't finish his sentence. The Kylan's status was the same as the dragon's, and they weren't one head lower than the dragon. The name Kylan was quite interesting. I didn't think that much. My name is Link, so the only thing related to me is the Kylan. Branch Master Zhao, don't overthink it. He said. Me Na covered her mouth and chuckled, Old Zhao, I think the name is quite appropriate. As soon as Link appeared, he exposed White Crane Hall's plot and did not cause us to suffer more losses. Otherwise, if He Tongjian were to stab us in the back when we start a large-scale war, you know the consequences better than I do. Kylan Hall Kazaya, I also think this name is good. Lei Zhuzi shook his head and chewed for a while. Unfortunately, his big and burly appearance did not look like a scholar at all. Instead, he looked a little clumsy. The Green Dragon's boss's eyes shone with a strange light. He now completely understood that Link must have been in contact with the other 3 hall masters before this. He was also the one who had stolen the title deed to White Crane Hall. However, the spy he had trained, Lu Wei, had made other deals behind his back. Whether it was for the sake of the gang or for personal feelings, Lu Wei had to die. However, with Lu Wei's death, He Tongjian's scheme was exposed to the public, and no one was suitable to take over White Crane Hall. Their only choice was Link. A conspiracy, and an open conspiracy, to a certain extent, could be considered as forcing an abdication. Good. From today onwards, Link will be the new hall master of the Kylin Hall, and he will also take over all the properties and territories of the White Crane Hall. He will be the new 6th hall of the water transport gang. Thank you, Dragon Head, said Link. At the same time, a message popped up on Link's system interface. You have completed the C-rank mission Turtle Dove's Nest. You have received 70,000 experience points and influence +1. You have received a blue weapon magic box pistol, and a blue material Buddha's shrine. Chapter 190, Force Mission. Lin Ke felt a pistol suddenly appear on his belt and a small bead in his pocket. However, he couldn't check the situation in the conference room. Link could only suppress his curiosity and wait until the conference was over. On the other hand, the treasure-hunting mouse sensed that there was something good in Link's pocket and quickly escaped from Link's hand and ran back into the pocket. Link patted his pocket, signaling the treasure-hunting mouse not to show its head and to play in it. Azure Dragon's boss called for his men outside the door and threw Lu Wei's body out. We officially welcome Link, the leader of the Shui Yun Gang's Kylin Hall, to join us. He raised his hand and led the way. Link sat in the chair that used to belong to Crane Boy and tidied his collar. The information in his status bar had also changed. The original leader of the Link Gang had become the head of the shipping gang's Kylin Hall. As soon as Link sat down, the old turtle couldn't wait to introduce him. Since Hall Master Lin is one of us now, I'll start by introducing him to the structure and system of our water transportation gang. Sick Scholar Zhao Heshan saw that old turtle was so enthusiastic that he even took away the job he introduced, so he simply did not interfere. He leaned on the wooden chair and listened, looking sick. We, the water transportation gang, started from the water transportation port in the slums. 20 years ago, there were more than a dozen gangs, but in the end, only 6 of them stood out in a battle. Later on, the boss of Green Dragon stopped the internal strife and merged them into one. This was how the water transportation gang was established. There were also many difficulties and obstacles in this process. Many forces were unwilling to unite the powers of the inland water transportation dock, and they tried various ways to obstruct it. The one who contributed the most was the 9-patterned dragon. Without him, there would not be the inland water transportation gang today. Mr. Gui first gave a rough introduction of the establishment of the water transportation gang, and then began to introduce the big shots present. First of all, I would like to introduce the leader of the water transportation gang, the boss of Green Dragon, the master of Green Dragon Hall. The one behind him is the 9-striped dragon, the most powerful fighter in the gang, and the right-hand man of the boss of Green Dragon. Red Stick Duo was publicly acknowledged as the best fighter in a gang. The 9-patterned dragon did not give up. This sickly man who looks like he's about to die is Zhao Heshan, the head of the Hall of Venomous Snakes, and also the white paper fan of the water transportation gang. Don't be fooled by his appearance, this guy's hidden weapons and poisoning skills are first class, he's full of evil tricks. Zhao Heshan's face was pale, but he cupped his fists and smiled. It's not easy to hear old turtle's praise. I'm so happy. The white paper fan was the military advisor and think tank of the sect. From the small sect operations to the large army formation, he had to be involved in everything. Quick-witted and crafty, this was a qualified white paper fan. In addition to their powerful combat power, the fact that the water transportation gang had been able to survive in the slums for 20 years was also an important part of their strategy. Link couldn't help but look at the sickly scholar. This bald brawny man is the hall master of the Lightning Tiger Hall, Lei Zhuzi. Don't look at how big he is, he actually has a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He was usually a gambler and lost 9 out of 10, so he cut off one finger to remind himself. However, it seemed that he had cut off his finger for nothing. Oh right, he's also the Cao Yun gang's straw sandals. If you need anything, you can also ask him to buy it. Lei Zhuzi smiled as he stretched out his right hand. His little finger had been completely cut off, and in its place was a silver metal finger caught on his finger. Straw sandals, an important personnel in the gang, good at networking, business, and intelligence. In the future, if you need any weapons, equipment, or information, you can come to me. I'll sell them to the people in my own guild at a cheap price. I'll only charge the transportation fee. Lei Zhuzi said as he patted his shoulder. Old Turtle pointed at the beautiful woman beside him and said, "This is the Vermilion Bird Hall's hall master, Mi-Na. She's the only female hall master in the water transportation gang. Of course, don't be fooled by her beauty, Master Lin. She's old enough to be your sister-in-law. Wu Sansi, no one will think you're mute if you don't speak." Mina's seductive tone suddenly turned cold, and her red eyes seemed to be burning with flames. Her fiery red dress was also gradually shrouded in a layer of flames, like a demonic red lotus. Old Turtle was shocked by Mina's flame and quickly laughed. At her age, she can barely be your sister Ying Luo. Yes, sister. Hello, Sister Mina. Link quickly addressed Mina as Sister Mina and put an end to this. I don't need to introduce myself, we've already met last time. After some introduction, Link had a better understanding of the gang's structure. The dragon head was an azure dragon, the 2 flowers, the red stick, and the 9-patterned dragon. The white paper fan was Zhao Heshan, and the grass shoes were Lei Zhuzi. In terms of high-level combat power, they were extremely weak. Boss Green Dragon, 9-patterned dragon, and Old Turtle were all grandmasters of combat. Zhao Heshan was a stalker, Lei Zhuzi was a gunmaster, and Zhao Heshan was a sniper. Mina was a fire-type mutant. Other than the Department of Mysticism, the Water Transportation Gang had gathered the other 3 super systems, which could be said to be quite impressive. After the introduction, Green Dragon's boss said slowly, "After Hall Master Lin takes over the Kylin Hall, the sect has a task for you." Link leaned back in his chair with his legs crossed and his hands on the armrests. He gestured for the Green Dragon boss to continue. "Since you have found the lost title deed and documents of White Crane Hall, as well as the evidence of their collusion with the Hidden Alliance, you can't blame me then. After you've reorganized the Kylin Hall, I hope you can take back all the territories that Hitanjian had sold out before with this evidence. This is the territory of the Inland Water Transportation Gang, and no one is allowed to touch it." Hiss. Hearing the boss's words, the other 4 hall masters sucked in a cold breath. The territory and resources had already been taken by the Hidden Alliance. It would be extremely difficult to take it back from their hands now. Moreover, Kylin Hall was a newly established hall, and White Crane Hall had also fallen apart, leaving little combat power behind. Whether it was in terms of numbers or strength, the 6 halls were the weakest. With this level of strength, it was almost impossible to go against the Hidden Alliance, which was on the same level as the Water Transportation Gang. Of course, this is a test from the Water Transportation Gang. If you think it's too difficult, you can refuse. You have triggered the C-rank mission Recover the Inland Water Gang's Lost Territory. Accept/reject. Support mission hint: the property and territory of the Water Transportation Gang were damaged because of Hitanjian's secret deal with the Hidden Alliance. Now, Green Dragon's boss wants you to take back the land that belongs to the Inland Water Gang. Quest reward: 100000, experience points 2 random blue materials, 3000 reputation points with the Water Transportation Gang. After reading the mission, Link noticed that there were 3 more options under the system. Option 1, directly agree to accept the mission. All the hall masters present will think that you are crazy and that you like to show off. They will be slightly less wary of you. After completing the mission, you will receive 1.5 times the mission reward. Option 2, all the hall masters think that you are shrewd and will be slightly more wary of you. You will receive the normal mission reward after you complete the mission. Option 3, reject the offer directly. All the hall masters will think that you are a hothead who knows nothing. Their favorability will decrease, and their wariness will increase. After reading it, Link's lips curled up. Do you think I, Link, would care about a 1.5x reward? No. I mainly like to be in the limelight. Alright, leave this to me. If I need your cooperation, please don't refuse. As soon as he said this, Link noticed that everyone's expressions had changed slightly. Interesting.